Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I am working on a little tiny digital painting. I've really fallen out of the habit of making that a priority, but I absolutely love working digitally. So today I recommitted myself to that. I tried to include as much of the process as possible in this one. I know a lot of times with my watercolors I tend to shave off the beginning when I'm working endlessly on sketches, but I wanted to show you how I work, especially digitally. I think that this is helping me be a little bit more introspective as far as the thought processes that I have when I'm working digitally, when I'm starting with a sketch digitally, that is. I realize, especially in this one, and I've noticed it before, but I seem to go into like a different state of mind when I'm working digitally with no concept before I start, as opposed to when I'm working on pen and paper. I find that when I'm working in Photoshop, just right off the bat, I tend to cut out being as creative or thoughtful about the designs and the choices, and I tend to just kind of throw things down and then feel like they're not working and I'm struggling with it. This is actually probably maybe like the fourth or fifth sketch that I worked on before I really felt like something was working. And by no means is that unusual, but usually when I'm working traditionally, for some reason I found that when I'm putting down ideas, it's more like an extension on ideas, or I'm working from one to the next and then I get to choose which one I like the most. But it seems with digital, I tend to get more, not frustrated, but I tend to have a lot more tries that I feel like are just not good enough. But I think that it's a large part is just me not having a concept before I even start. So with this one, it's interesting to rewatch it because at the beginning I would have felt like this is, and I know that I did, that it wasn't good enough and it wasn't something to start on a piece with. It wasn't there yet. But I gave it more time and I focused on it and I refined areas all throughout the process of this until finally I ended up with a sketch that I really liked, and I ended up with a piece that I really liked. And I think that maybe when I'm working digitally, I don't always think of a concept before I start drawing, which I have no idea why that is as far as this over other mediums, but I think that I don't really have a concept before I start. And I also seem to give up sooner on an idea than I do digitally, or traditionally, that is. Maybe when I'm working traditionally, I let myself be really loose and much more representative without necessarily being correct. It doesn't need to look good before I accept that as an idea to move along with. So I'm not sure exactly all the things that go into play, but it is something that I'd like to pay attention to more about what I'm thinking about when I am working traditionally over digitally, and try to bring over those good habits and those good thoughts from one into the other so that I can have the best process possible. But this one, I did end up really enjoying the end result and working on it. It was just really, it was really enjoyable. But there was a point at the beginning where I thought, okay, I'm heading in a weird direction where I'm not thinking through what I actually want to show in this piece or the mood, or I'm not planning out the things that I would enjoy creating in this piece. So I need to take a minute, plan something out a little bit better, and then continue onward. And that's when I was able to wrangle it back in and make it into something that I wanted to actually work on, rather than something that I was struggling with and feeling really disconnected with. And after I decided to change the ratio into a square, that's when it clicked that I'd like to turn this into a Polaroid photograph type artwork, and that was just really fun to be able to work on that. But it also gave me a little bit more drive to make sure that this looked like she was in a place and this was a snapshot of someone's life. And I made sure that the background had a little bit more of an atmosphere to it. I actually had a lot of fun with the background. It's not how I normally work, but I think that's one thing that I'd like to put on my to work on this year list for art. I would like to get better at being more, or working with things that are softer and less well defined. They absolutely have uses in art, obviously. And there's a lot of things that I wish that I could do better using more blended techniques like that. But for the background, I did make it look more like a stormy sky, something that was dark and gray and a little bit rainy. And that worked out perfectly because it was really blendy and blurry, which makes her the focus, and it looks like the camera is focused in on her and the background is out of focus. And one of the things that I really tried to push in this piece and to enjoy was adding these extra hazy colors, things that feel very atmospheric and almost like things are reflecting and glowing. It's something that I don't quite get to at this stage, but I get to it pretty soon. But I create a few layers on top of the colors, as well as a few, I think, on top of the line work as well, where I just gave it these hints of colors coming in and out like a glowing effect. And I really like that it adds more depth to the colors that's happening, and it does give a little bit more information to it rather than being very one color, one object kind of thing. And it's a kind of complexity to color that I would like to become more aware of, as well as just more comfortable with using in a very deliberate way. I'd really like to do that a lot more with my watercolors as well. That's a thing that I've become a little bit more aware of, is the fact that I think that my color work can be a little bit more organic in the way that things are mixed together and how they blend into each other, and how there's just other colors that I normally would not include can be on different shapes. I actually really love putting things in there like that, like a color that is just out of the norm as far as the object that it's placed on, especially like in skin tones. I love having like really bright blush or yellow tones and just things that become very strong and separate from the rest of the color. I also really had a lot of fun working with such unnatural colors for this character. I have always really loved pushing the colors that I do use so that it's a little bit ambiguous whether it's the local color or if it's the atmospheric color, if it's something that's reflecting on her. I love creating these characters that look like they could plausibly be real, but they aren't quite there. Like here, she has a very gray, blue, green skin color, and her hair in the end, while of course you can dye your hair any natural or any unnatural color, I did end up pushing it in a way that I hoped it would look like she had dyed her hair one color and it was growing back in this kind of a slate blue kind of a color. And it's just it's a really fun exercise to work in. I found that I used to work very linearly in the way that I thought about things. I would color things the way they're supposed to be, and I would shade them with the way they're supposed to be. And over the past few years, I've really tried to push as far as the way that I use color and be a lot more inventive with it. And I found that working on artwork has become so much more enjoyable to be able to look at those colors and not be tied down to what things normally are or what the local color actually is for pretty much anything. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't really tried to go outside the realm of reality for colors, try to push that and try to play with that. There's actually a lot of ways that you can really get very convincing colors that are unique and interesting to look at, but don't necessarily look jarring or unnatural. And saturation is one of those big key things to being able to make things look really believable. And that's actually something that I really need to work on, because I really love bright saturated colors, but I think that I can have a little bit more control over the saturation of the colors and where I'm placing them so I can get the most impact from them. So I would like to work on that a little bit more in the future. Well, a lot more in the future. There's a lot of things I want to work on, but that's a big one. So here particularly, I did go with more of a gray based color for both her hair and her skin, and that helped it look not too alien, not too saturated or unrealistic. And of course it absolutely is unrealistic, but because it's still based in a more desaturated color, it helps it feel a little bit more grounded out. And then I just added it into a new file that was the correct ratio to be a Polaroid photo. And this was really fun. I love creating really textured looks. So I went in there with a few different brushes just to create a little bit more of a weathered look to it. And I did want to have a little thing written in the corner, which seems kind of funny because that's normally where you would sign a piece and make it your own. But I wanted to put the name of this character, like someone had scrawled it on this photo of her. So I ended up putting a different name there and putting my signature somewhere else. But yeah, I love the effect of that, actually. I had a lot of fun mapping out how I was going to write that so that it would look like it was handwritten, and I tried to pick out a brush that really had that faded look to it, like a pencil. And that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back Saturday with another video, and then Wednesday after that. And I do have a link in the description that'll take you to my art shop where you can help support this channel and me. It means so much to me, but I do have lots of art prints and stickers and buttons over there, and originals as well. But that is it for today, so see you guys next time.